In Cuba, the search for survivors continues at the Saratoga Hotel in Havana, which was destroyed by an accidental explosion that left 31 dead so far. The Cuban and Mexican governments signed cooperation agreements in several areas in order to strengthen bilateral cooperation. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, held the ceremonies commemorating the 77th anniversary of the Day of Victory over Nazi Germany. During his speech, the President said that Russia launched a preventive operation in Ukraine in the face of an imminent aggression from Kiev. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the Telesur Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Cuba, the search for survivors continues at the Saratoga Hotel in Havana, which was destroyed by an accidental explosion that left 31 dead so far. After more than 43 hours of uninterrupted work by rescuers, Alexis Acosta, mayor of La Habana Vieja, stated that the volume of the destruction was complicating the search efforts. Acosta added that the rescuers were able to open up their way to the administrative offices and the warehouse of the collapsed structure. The authorities stated that they have the human and material resources to continue the rescue operation, but must proceed with caution due to flooded or very unstable areas. Rescuers estimate that there are people trapped in the basement of the hotel, but added that they must assess the safest way to remove the debris in order to enter the site. The Cuban and Mexican governments signed cooperation agreements in several areas in order to strengthen bilateral cooperation. The agreements were signed by the presidents of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, and Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, at the Palace of the Revolution in Havana. The presidents and their ministers signed agreements in the health sector. The two heads of state signed a joint statement to promote the development of social, economic, cultural, educational, and commercial activities for mutual benefit. In the document, the leaders also expressed their willingness to strengthen the bonds of fraternity between both peoples, as well as to promote bilateral cooperation to address the difficulties sparked by COVID-19.
During this visit, we have signed a document that strengthens a new stage in the bilateral relationship between Mexico and Cuba. Our health minister signed a cooperation agreement that makes it easy to benefit from all the health and scientific potential, joint effort and wills that our two countries can develop in the field of health for the benefit of our people in this novel area. We discussed important topics of the bilateral agenda of our bilateral relations, but we have also addressed topics of the regional agenda and the international issues.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador insisted on the need to lift the blockade imposed on Cuba by the United States and reiterated his position that no country should be excluded from the upcoming Summit of the Americas.
With all due respect for the sovereignty and independence of Cuba, I will continue insisting that, as a first step, the United States lift the blockade of the sister nation, in order to initiate the establishment of cooperative and friendly relations between the people of the two nations. For then, I will insist with President Biden that no country of America should be excluded from next month's summit to be held in Los Angeles, California, and let the authorities of each country freely decide whether or not to attend that meeting, but let no one exclude anyone.
The government of Cuba awarded the José Martí Award to the President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The head of state described it as an honor.
A distinction that honors me to receive this award from the most humane and sincere independence fighter of our America, José Martí. I am very grateful to my friend, the President of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, for this recognition, to the government of Cuba, and I express my beloved and respect affection to the worthy people of Cuba.
In Italy, during the 18th Congress of the World Trade Union Federation, participants rejected the blockade imposed on Cuba by the United States. The Congress expresses its solidarity with Cuba and rejects the economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States on the island, noting that the blockade cost the Cuban state around $12 million a day, which accumulates during the last 6 decades an approximate of $1,326,432 million in gold. It points out that the blockade is a massive human rights violation of the Cuban people, an inhumane policy aimed at generating shortages and destabilization, and affirms that it is the main obstacle for the recovery of the Cuban economy. Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. This Saturday, the March of Central American Mothers demonstrated in the Zócalo of the Mexican capital demand justice and the location of their missing sons and daughters who have disappeared during their migratory transit through Mexico. The contingent of almost 50 people marched through the streets of the historic center of Mexico City with photographs of their missing sons and the flags of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. On their return to Mexico after 2 years of the pandemic, the mothers have traveled through the states of Chiapas, Veracruz, Tabasco, and the capital to ask Mexican authorities for progress on the complaints they submitted for their missing relative. It is worth mentioning that the region is experiencing a record migratory flow to the United States, whose Customs and Border Protection Office detected more than 1.7 million undocumented immigrants at the Mexican border in the fiscal year 2021, which ended on September 30th.
El Salvador, present. Guatemala, present. Guatemala, present. Who we are, Mesoamerican mothers, not heard. Who we are, Mesoamerican mothers. So, listen, your mother is in the struggle. Daughter, listen, your mother is in the struggle, shoulder to shoulder, side by side. Migrants, 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 we are all.
The governments of Venezuela and Bolivia ratified their willingness to strengthen bilateral cooperation with the Third Joint Integration Commission at the meeting of the Political Consulting Mechanism. In a joint statement issued by Venezuelan Foreign Minister Felix Plasencia and his Bolivian counterpart Rogelio Maita, following Plasencia's visit to the Andean country on May 5th and 6th, the parties agreed to hold the second meeting of the Consular and Migratory Consultation Mechanism as a forum for dialogue to benefit their communities abroad. They reviewed the negotiation agreements in various areas such as tourism, environment, ecological mining, development, among others. Meanwhile, they agree on the need to deepen bilateral commercial relations, so the parties convened to develop joint strategies in order that business could be done in the medium and long term. Today, the Panamanian government called the transporters to a dialogue next week in an attempt to stop a strike called by this sector due to increase in fuel prices. According to a report by the Transit and Land Transportation Authorities, the talks will begin on Wednesday, May 11th, after drivers in the provinces of Chiriquí and the Caribbean province of Colón announced that they will stop services as a pressure measure. As for the school transportation, bus owners urged the executive branch to find solutions to the rampant rise in diesel and gasoline prices. They invited the country's different transport unions and other operators and users, as well as the competent authorities, in order to identify alternatives to a problem that affects everyone. According to the drivers, it is impossible to provide the service with a rate of 30 cents of a dollar, which has been enforced for 11 years, while the executive does nothing to freeze or reduce the high cost of gasoline and diesel. Economist and former Finance Minister Rodrigo Chavez sworn in on Sunday as Costa Rica's president for a 4-year mandate focused on reinvigorating one of Latin America's most stable economies. The former World Bank executive has vowed to tackle Costa Rica's severe economic problems, rising foreign debt, a poverty rate of 23%, unemployment of 14%, and public sector corruption. Tourism, one of the country's main economic drivers, was hard hit by the coronavirus pandemic, and the country of 5.2 million people experienced an increase in unemployment equal in the region only by Peru. Chavez, who served 6 months as finance minister in the outgoing government, won a runoff election over former President José María Figueres. The government of Chile signed an agreement with transport unions and puts an end to the strike that kept routes closed in the south of the country in demand of security measures for free circulation. This Saturday, representatives of President Gabriel Boric's executive branch and several freight transport unions held a meeting to agree on the details of the agreement that ended the days of protests and roadblocks. The transport unions highlighted that the agreement with the executive branch is an important step for their demands on security and other labor guarantees. One of the items of the agreement states the government's commitment to create the legal basis for the establishment of a state of protection and safeguarding of the country's highways and roads. In the United States, citizens marched this Sunday in several cities of the country to demand the legitimacy of pregnancy termination. In Washington, the protest took place in front of the Supreme Court building, while in Atlanta, people marched through downtown. The wave of protest comes just a few days after the leaking of a document from the United States Supreme Court, which suggests that the court is prepared to overturn the decision legalizing abortion in the northern nation. An investigation is currently underway to determine who leaked the draft Supreme Court decision. We have more news coming up after the final show break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Russia, people celebrate the Day of Victory in the Great Patriotic War, a significant day for the Russian people and the countries that once constituted the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Russia celebrates the 77th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Army over Nazism in the Second World War on May 9th. The German surrender took place days after the Red Army took the city of Berlin, the stronghold of Nazi power, on May 2nd, 1945. To commemorate this date, a grand military parade is held every year in the heart of Moscow. This year's events are marked by the military operation that Russia carries out on Ukrainian territory since February 24th, with the aim of protecting the self-proclaimed People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, besieged by Kiev since 2014. In his speech, President Vladimir Putin said that Russia launched a preemptive strike in Ukraine in view of the increasing militarization of Kiev through NATO and an imminent risk of aggression against the territory of the Donbass and Crimea.
We had seen military infrastructure being deployed, hundreds of foreign experts working in Ukraine, how NATO weaponry was being supplied. Danger was growing day by day. Russia launched a preemptive strike. It was a necessary measure and the only possible measure in this situation, a decision of a sovereign and independent country.
Russian President Vladimir Putin extended his congratulations to the leaders and peoples of the countries that were part of the Soviet Union and played a leading role in the victory against German fascism during the Great Patriotic War. In his written message on the occasion of the 77th anniversary of Victory Day, the Russian head of state stressed that his country pays respectful tribute to the soldiers of the front and the workers of the rear who crushed Nazism at the cost of countless sacrifices and hardships. He reiterated the need to preserve and transmit to posterity the truth about the events of the war years, common spiritual values and tradition of fraternal friendship. In a point of the text dedicated to the heads of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic, Putin emphasized that the Russian military, like their ancestors, are fighting for the liberation of their homeland from Nazism, confident that, as in 1945, victory will be achieved. At least 7 people have died in fires in the Siberian region of Krasnoyarsk in eastern Russia, where flames have ripped through villages and high winds have hampered efforts to extinguish the blazes. Hundreds of firefighters tried to contain the blazes, which are a rare occurrence in the region during May and have been fueled by a lack of rain and fierce winds. In the Krasnoyarsk region, at least 5 people lost their life in the fires, which damaged about 450 homes, the local authorities said, declaring a state of emergency. Regional Governor Alexander Us said winds of up to 144 kilometers per hour had brought down trees and power lines across the region, sparking the fires. Russian firefighters reported having extinguished wildfires in 4 areas of the Krasnoyarsk region in Siberia. According to the Ministry of Emergency Situations, fires raged in more than 16 villages of the Krasnoyarsk region on Saturday and spread as a result of strong winds affecting 18 municipalities with more than 200 fire outbreaks. Authorities report the blazes in Bogotolotsky, Kosolsky, Charipovsky, and Abansky districts were extinguished. Regional administration said winds of up to 144 kilometers per hour brought down trees and power lines across the region, sparking fires. This Sunday, the Palestinian National Authorities renewed its claim over East Jerusalem after rejecting Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett's statements about the area occupied since 1967. In a statement, the spokesman for the Palestinian Authority, Nabil Abu Rodeina, recalled that several UN Security Council resolutions recognize Palestinian rights to the area where the esplanade of the mosque, a holy site for Muslims and Jews, is located. Rodeina's statements comes in response to Bennett's comments, who this Sunday stated that all decisions regarding the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Jerusalem are made solely by the Israeli government. Regardless of outside consideration, the spokesman also warned that the only way to achieve security, peace and stability in the region is to recognize the rights of the Palestinian people, which include putting an end to the occupation and the establishment of an independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. At least 11 members of the Egyptian military, including an officer, have been killed in an armed attack on the Sinai Peninsula. Army spokesman Karib Abdel Hafez said that the security forces stopped the terrorist attack on a water lifting station east of the Suez Canal. He also added that 5 security personnel were also injured in the attack. No group claimed responsibility for Saturday's ambush, one of the deadliest attacks against Egyptian security forces in recent years. Last week, suspected fighters blew up a natural gas pipeline in northern Sinai, causing a fire but no casualties. Recently, pipelines carrying Egyptian oil and gas to neighboring Israel and Jordan have been the primary targets of insurgent attacks. The United Nations on Sunday strongly rejected the Taliban's directive ordering Afghan women to cover fully in public, including their faces, or stay indoors, saying the change would effectively leave them in prison. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged the Taliban to respect international human rights guarantees for women and girls in Kabul, following the extremist group's recent announcements. The restrictions require women to either wear a burqa, the head-to-toe covering that allows women to see through only a small grill at eye level, or a full niqab, which covers the face but not the eyes. Along with the decree, the Taliban issued a detailed set of restrictions and punishment that leave women's family members responsible for their compliance and facing fines and jail if they are seen in public uncovered. John Lee was elected as Hong Kong's next leader on Sunday after winning over 99% of votes casted by the election committee. Lee received more than 1,000 votes in the chief executive election, far exceeding the 751 votes he needed to win, and the highest support ever for the city's top leadership position. The election committee's members cast their votes in a secret ballot on Sunday. Lee will replace current leader Carrie Lam on July 1st. The election occurs after tumultuous years of repression of the pro-democracy movement and weak pandemic controls. The vote was scheduled on March 27th, but COVID-19's strong outbreak in the area forced to postpone it for this Sunday. Sinn Féin has won the largest number of seats in the assembly election and wielded the right to nominate the party's northern leader, Michelle O'Neill, as the first Minister of Northern Ireland, the first time in the North East history that the top position has been held by a nationalist party. With all 90 seats declared soon on Sunday, Sinn Féin has retained all its seats to win 27. The Democratic Unionist Party took 25. The Ulster Unionist Party took 9 and the Social Democratic and Labour Party returned a total of 8. The other big success story of the election was that of the Cross Community Alliance Party, which more than doubled its tally of 8 in the last vote in 2017 to elect 17 members of the Legislative Assembly this time around. 32 of the members elected are women, compared with 27 who were returned in the last elections. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.